What's going on, guys? Sorry if the lighting here is a little bit off. My front facing light thing isn't working now, so sorry if there's little issues with light. But in this video, I want to talk about something coming up here. The last day of November is going to be a big month, and in this video, I'm going to show you what's going on tomorrow as of this upload. And we're also seeing rhetoric from one of the most hawkish members of the Fed, indicating we may see some rate cuts sooner than expected. So let's talk about what's coming up. If you guys like these videos, you know what to do. I definitely appreciate your support, and let's get this started. And sorry again for the lighting, but looking at Bitcoin real quick, we're still just hovering under 38,000. I'm still watching for a candle to close above this pattern. And if we don't break out here and close above this pattern, above this resistance, we may come back down and test the $36,000 area before bouncing off this ascending support line that was established towards the end of October. Looking at the weekly, Bitcoin is still a little overbought on the chart, so I wouldn't be all that surprised to see a retracement down to our ascending support line, at the very least. And that would make a great buying opportunity for Bitcoin. But overall, Bitcoin is still bullish. We are above all of our ascending trend lines. The 50 MA, the 200 MA, the 50 EMA, 100 and 200 EMA are all bullish. And despite a potential retracement in the coming days, coming weeks, Bitcoin is heading much, much higher. Now, we will touch on something Bitcoin related here in a second, but I also want to talk about this typically hawkish Fed saying that rate cuts are very possible soon. Christopher Waller, who's widely seen as the hawkish voice at the central bank, flagged the possibility of a rate cut in the months ahead, saying on Tuesday, "I am increasingly confident that policy is currently well positioned to slow the economy and get inflation back to 2%, and that if the decline in inflation continues for several more months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, we could start lowering the policy rate just because inflation is lower." That statement there, to me, indicates that it doesn't need to be necessarily at 2% or under, but as long as over the next few months we see inflation continue down, PCE, CPI, PPI, all trending downwards, they could start lowering the policy rate just because inflation is lower. And if the Fed wants a soft landing, they do have to be cautious where rates lie. If the economy starts getting worse and inflation does continue trending down but doesn't get to that 2% target, I do think they're still going to lower rates slowly at first, very methodically, if that's a word. The rates are so high right now that inflation, in my eyes, will still continue down, even if they cut rates by 25 basis points, cut rates a few times potentially. Even with the few rate cuts, we still have very high interest rates, which should continue to push inflation downwards. And we do have an important inflationary data point coming out tomorrow as of this upload, November 30th. And this is going to be PCE. Our previous read was 3.4%. The forecast for the upcoming read is going to be 3.1%. So look out for that data coming out. If it comes in under 3%, under 3.1% at least, I do think the market has some room to rally. Now, PCE compared to CPI and PPI is higher, the last read being 3.4%. I believe we are a few reads away from being in the 2s. And we did start slightly trending up towards the end of summer. So it'll be nice to see this inflation data come in under 3.4%. It was basically stuck there for the last couple of months, you can see. So I think this will move the market tomorrow, especially if we can see some really good cooling off, see this data come in at 3% or under. Even the 3.1% forecast would be favorable because it shows that we're coming down from 3.4 and coming down drastically from the 6.8% top that we experienced. And here's CPI year over year. You can see that similar to PCE, similar to everything else, we had this bottoming out and then we started retracing back up, going from 3% up to 3.7%. Our last read was down to 3.2, but we're going to have to wait a few weeks for this data to come out. December 12th is when CPI is going to drop, and we don't yet have a forecast here on this site, but I believe as long as we come in under 3.2%, that shows that inflation is still cooling according to this data. And we have producer price index, or PPI, which is actually the lowest in terms of inflation, and this is coming out one day after CPI. This is coming out on December 13th, and we actually had a read that went as low as 0.2%, nearly deflationary, nearly under 0%. Our last read was 1.3%, so if we can come in under that or even around it, I think we'll be all right. Typically, this is a leading indicator compared to CPI and PCE. If this is coming down first, typically the others do follow, but not always. But this is one piece of data that is under the Fed's 2% target. However, they're more focused on CPI and PCE. But it is important to see all of these together coming down. So it is going to be a pretty important next couple of days, next couple of weeks. And if we continue getting reads that come down over the previous months, this gets the ball rolling in terms of Fed being able to cut rates, although it is still months away in my opinion. But just think, 3 to 6 months from now, where are all these inflationary data points? I do believe most of these will be under 2% or very close to 2%, continuing to show monthly declines in inflation and giving the Fed the opportunity to cut rates probably by spring to summer of 2024, which in my eyes will help a lot of the riskier small caps that need to acquire high interest debt or dilute shareholders. Now we also have something else very important coming out on November 30th as well, and this is CleanSpark's fiscal full year earnings. This is going to cover what they did on the fiscal year as well as their last quarter, which basically cut off around fall. And one thing I've said before and I'll say again is I'm not expecting all that much from this earnings due to Bitcoin being around 25 to 30,000 at the time, but in upcoming earnings is where things will get really exciting in my eyes. And in this earnings they're going to be reporting on the 30th, they are going to give some forward guidance, and we should see some very exciting numbers in terms of revenue, maybe even profitability, being that Bitcoin has gone so high in the last couple of months. They may give a revenue expectation in the 70 millions or above, but it's going to be a very exciting week for CleanSpark. We've already seen some positive momentum coming up to earnings, so just be cautious, guys. But I do believe over the long term, CleanSpark is going much higher, and we have so much to be excited for. But let me know what you guys think about CleanSpark's upcoming earnings. Do you think they're going to hit their revenue expectations? Do you think they're going to actually report profitability in that earnings? Or do you think they're going to give some potential forward guidance that in the next quarter they're going to be profitable, considering Bitcoin's huge move up since their last update? Thanks as always for watching, guys. Let me know what you want me to cover down below. Let me know how you're feeling about inflation data. What do you expect for PCE? Thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.